Let's get back on track here. So Dr. Tom Moorcroft is a very close friend and colleague. He is an expert in viruses. He is a world-renowned uh, functional medical doctor. Well, I'll let him give you a little background himself, but I just wanted you to know that he is like, his whole specialty is mystery illnesses. And if there's ever been a mystery, we're in the middle of it right now. And so there's a lot of things that are causing confusion and panic and fear. And my whole purpose for being on planet Earth is to bring calm and help people stay centered and grounded and get rid of pain and release chronic pain, depression, anxiety, trauma. So we are here today to help you prevent pain and trauma, release the fear, release the panic, and get the facts so that we can make the calm go viral, not the corona. And so just let's start briefly. Tom, would you share with the audience a little bit about your background and how you even ended up as a virus expert, a mystery illness doctor? I would love to hear the story myself.
Yeah, thanks again, Deborah, for having me, and thanks for everybody for joining us. I mean, it's such a crazy time, and it's kind of like, I remember, like, when I was young, I have this, like, you have this memory from the past, and not a lot of it, but it's just this. I remember seeing a hallway in an emergency room, right, on TV, and I remember seeing the doctor, like, everybody's going crazy, and the doctor walked in and just immediately took action in a very calm way and got the whole situation stabilized by just knowing what to do. Wow. And it was kind of like, in retrospect, the person took a deep breath and then just did what their training taught them to do. And that was really amazing to see. And, it was just kind of in the back of my mind forever. And, I just started I did a lot of outdoor stuff, trying to connect with nature, and really I love being in harmony with the planet. And so I thought that's what I was going to do, in natural resources. But then I got injured on a hiking trip, and I just started looking into wilderness medicine so that we could prevent the problem. Wow. But if a problem happened to happen, then we could, know what to do. And so the more I did that training, the more I got interested in sort of anatomy and physiology and how the body worked. And long story short is I ended up working in the emergency room, and I got hooked. And so then I went off to medical school. And it was throughout my medical school training, there were, and a little bit before, I was having a lot of musculoskeletal pain, a lot of anger and irritability. Certainly my brain wasn't working all that well. And, I didn't know what was wrong. And I went to all these doctors, and they gave me these crazy diagnoses and medicines that never worked.
And we know that story in my community.
I'm sure. So it's really interesting. So a friend of mine gave me a yoga DVD.
Oh, interesting.
And when I did it, it didn't feel right. I'm like, they're doing it backwards. So I fast forwarded to the end, and I said, where did he learn? And I went right back to the origin of where it came from. And I started to learn Ashtanga yoga as it was taught back in India. And all of a sudden, within 6 or 8 months, 70% of my symptoms were better.
Wow.
And what it was really powerful for me at the time was I had no idea how to calm my mind. So I had to go through a physical yoga to get to calm.
Do you guys see why I love this man? He so gets it. He so gets the connection between the mind, the emotions, the body. All right, I'm sorry, I interrupted, but that's just it, isn't it? I mean, that is it. Wow.
Yeah. And what's really interesting to me too is after that, I had 30% to go, and I ended up finding a doctor who diagnosed me with some chronic infections and some heavy metal toxicity, and we were able to take care of that. But 70%, I mean, and maybe it was 69 or maybe it was 72%, but really, I mean, almost all of my healing was what I did to learn to listen to my body more deeply. And also what was really interesting is when I did that, I actually started to change my diet. Yeah. And I didn't know anything back then about diet. Nutrition wasn't as widely talked about. And so my body, by listening to it, I already started to make these changes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you shifted to? What did you eat from what to what?
Well, I do remember that I learned something really interesting is that if you stop drinking 2 liters of Coca-Cola a day, you feel better.
That's making an impact, right?
It does. It is crazy. I grew up in a normal sort of home from New Jersey. We ate lots of pasta and pizza. We ate a bunch of everything processed.
Mm.
I was probably the only person in my house that candy wasn't a food group.
Yeah,
And it was like that story, right? Literally, when I went to medical school, I just knew that there was something not right with what I had learned from,
yeah,
going in the general system. And I thought I was going to have to trailblaze and make all these new changes. And the whole world of like what you do and naturopathy and functional medicine, I had never been exposed to it. I thought I had to make it myself. And
yeah.
thankfully I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Tom, the world's going nuts. It's been unbelievable week, right? I mean, today I had a client in another country. The entire city is quarantined. They're not allowed, no one of any age is allowed to leave the house. He had to go to his office, pack up. They lock the door for 6 weeks. He's home. They're only allowed to go to the grocery store or the drugstore. That's it. And that's heavy duty. Okay. Um, what's going on? Can you give us the cliff notes, the bullet points medically? What do
Yeah.
people need to know? And let's separate the fact from the fiction, debunk some of the myths and the fears that are, spreading because
Right.
there's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, I think what most people know is the virus is spreading extremely rapidly across the planet. I mean, and we're seeing the numbers really accelerate. I mean, we have over 168,000 cases in the world right now with over 6,500 deaths, which, is a great way to start off a conversation about calm.
Yeah, right.
But I do think one of the things I think it's when we're armed with, like you said, the facts, not the fiction, we know how to, not everything in the world is always great, but we have a better understanding of how to react. And what we're seeing is, depending upon where you are on the planet, there's very different sort of risk factors and mortality rates. I mean, and also different plans that are working or not working. We know that, like in the United States, and we are so behind in testing. I mean, we test about 25 people per million U.S. citizens, compared to South Korea, that has done about 5,000 tests per million.
Mm.
So it's just dramatically different. So as the United States catches up with testing, hopefully, we're going to see that our numbers of people sick are going even higher. But my hope is that the mortality rate actually goes down.
Mm.
And,
Why would that be? If the testing shows higher, why would the mortality
well,
rate?
because we're actually going to pick up more mild cases.
Ah,
So the cases that we're currently missing now we hope, because like, if you think about it, like we're in the US, we have estimates that the true cases of the COVID-19 caused by the coronavirus are 10 to 49 times more than the number that we saw today, which was 3,800.
Mm.
But if that's the case, and we know that more than 80% of people will have mild symptoms, similar to or less intense than influenza, that's really promising, right? And so we should see that mortality rate go down as we pick up less sick people.
And what are the mild symptoms?
So what we've been hearing most about are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. And certainly shortness of breath starts to get you a little bit more out of the mild symptoms. Right. So most people, it's kind of that cough and the shortness of, and the fever piece.
So Tom, this is where I really want to stir it up a little, and this may be controversial, but I work with people every day all over the world who have shortness of breath, and 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, that shortness of breath is coming from certain type of thinking patterns and emotions that they have not released, where they're afraid, they're in the future telling themselves a scary story about something that hasn't happened yet, and it literally causes them to like tense up, hold their breath, breathe shallow in the chest, and then this could be easily misconstrued as coronavirus.
It could. And the thing is, as physicians, and I mean, I love the way what you're just talking about in terms of how we catch and hold our breath, because as an osteopath in my training, we talk a lot about how you not only have the sort of biologic or physical change, but you have that mental emotional piece, and they're all just on the same continuum. So we are taught to evaluate and release restrictions in breathing, and whether, as a fully licensed physician, 15 years ago, we weren't supposed to be talking about releasing energy, where it's starting to become a little bit more okay in the conventional world. But I think it's an important piece is, so we have two main things that could go on. One is we have to put the pieces together, right? We have to say, do we have the symptoms that make sense? And a week or two ago, we would say, do we have an exposure?
Yeah.
But right now we know that it's very much like influenza. We can actually have people getting who have the virus and are shedding it, making other people sick before they even know they're sick. So it compounds that question. But
how do people know? How would people even know if they've had an exposure?
Right. Well, I mean, so if you think you're sick, and you have a flu-like type of thing, maybe the coronavirus, because as soon as any of us get a cough, that's immediately what we're thinking. The best advice I've been giving everyone is, unless you're having extremely severe shortness of breath, meaning you feel like you're going to die and you need to call the ambulance, that's a different story.
Yeah.
What we do is, the first thing we do is we take a deep breath and we sit down on the couch, we pick up the telephone and we call our doctor. And we ask our doctor, should I be concerned about COVID-19 and what should I do? Because what we're finding is the medical system is getting overwhelmed by people who are really, really hyper alert. Like, so with influenza, how many people, most of the time at the end of the year, our numbers go way up because we finally figure out how many other people had it. And then we have this big tail that says, well, we think this many more had it because they never came to get checked.
Right. And they're not panicking and assuming the worst. They're just thinking, I don't feel well. I'll get over it in a few days. I'll lay low. I'll take my chicken soup, whatever. But they're not panicking like right now we're seeing everywhere.
Right. And I think that the reason we're panicking is a bit because the mortality rate on average across the globe is 3.5%. And the spread has been fast. But
let me ask you something.
Yes.
Somebody told me, I saw an article that said that more people died of the regular influenza in 2019 than this. Is that accurate or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the 2019 to 2020 flu season, in the United States alone, we have well over 30 million, probably approaching 50 million people who have gotten influenza, and just over 17,000 that have died from it. But
so that's a lot of people.
It is, but
there was no quarantine for that. How come there was?
Because basically there was a pandemic a long time ago, and now it's stuck around. Before we had social media, and it's been around. But the difference is too, the death rate from the influenza virus is less than 0.1%. And that's, I think, what's gotten people, the rapid spread and then this high rate. So the other thing is, if we look at Italy today, they were almost 7.5% mortality rate. But if you look at South Korea, who got aggressive with testing and started quarantining more specifically, they're down to about 1%.
So let's repeat that, because that's the key. They got more aggressive with testing and they quarantined, and now it's gone down.
Right. Okay. Right. Now, the mortality rate, because they're picking people up sooner and giving them the treatments they need. Now, we should be clear, we don't have any awesome medical treatments, but there are a bunch of treatments we've used in other viruses and things that have been tested in South Korea and China that we use a lot in other infections that may be helpful. So there is some hope from a conventional medical perspective if you're more severely ill and you need your treatments.
But what's your opinion about, I assume you're talking about antibiotic treatment, is that correct?
Well, it's interesting. It's like we're looking at different antivirals, and in the critical care unit, there's one particular IV that works that they're looking at. There are a couple of anti-malarial treatments that have actually been shown to be pretty good, in early testing. And, it's.
How do those affect the immune system if you were to compare that to long-term antibiotic treatment?
Yeah, I think it's the same because I do use antibiotics more than sometimes I would like, but I'm always looking at it from the perspective of my osteopathic training, which is the body has a self-healing mechanism. It has the ability to heal itself. And so what I try to do is prioritize. And if one of your top couple of priorities requires a medication to
Yeah.
help unburden the body, I use it for the period of time you need, and then I get rid of it, as opposed to a more common medical model, which is let's just throw it out there and leave. Oh, it's working. Okay, just leave it. It's really patient centered.
Love that approach. And, I know there's probably a lot of people in my community who they don't want to go any conventional medical, but there are times where it's appropriate, right? And there are times where, like you said, you have to remember the body's designed to heal itself. So,
Right.
kind of lighten the load. Sometimes that's what we need, right? The
You
right.
might. And what's interesting too is our minds and our hearts
Yeah,
went into creating those medications,
exactly.
and many of them came out of plants.
Exactly.
So, but there's a time and a place. It's
Yeah.
not the answer to everything. And I think when we look at the numbers, we have over 80% of people at the current statistics, even missing a lot of the mild cases, who are getting mild disease and recovering on their own.
Yeah.
So there's a lot we can do to improve our immune system function. And one of my big tips when I've been, sharing them has been do all the normal sort of natural self-healing boosting stuff. But the big one is chill out. Take some time to calm down.
You love him. That's right. I mean, the lowering of the blood pressure, the nervous system benefits when you calm down, when you chill out.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be calm and be well or be ill. If you extend the calm, it prevents the ill. And if
Right.
you are in a weakened state and you stay agitated and stay like you're not going to get well.
Right. And if you look at the breathing, you talk about so much. Breathing is such an important thing to release the stressors on the solar plexus region, to stimulate vagus nerve function, which allows you to be calm, and that supports immune function.
Later on in the call, I'm going to teach a yogic breathing technique that stimulates the vagal nerve. And the vagus nerve is, we call it sometimes the relaxation response. It will stimulate that self-healing, that calming effect. And it's
Yeah.
very easy to do this. Anyone can do it. You could teach a 6-year-old to do this. And if you do it every day, it has a cumulative effect. So I'll teach that later in the call.
Awesome.
But you're getting down to basics, and that's what I want people to know is like, what are, in your opinion, as a doctor, what are the basics to stay well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we often look outside of the basics, and the real basics are the first one I tell people is get sleep.
Yeah.
8 or 9 hours of sleep a night for an adult, and your kids need more. Some people try to argue I can get away with 6. Science doesn't prove that out.
Yeah.
It's a great immune booster. Upwards of 70 to 90% of your brain detoxification happens while you're sleeping. It's great for restoring and rejuvenating and even consolidating your memories. So it's super important. And
Love.
then other things are, obvious things like your diet. I believe in a whole food, plant-based diet first, and then whatever else you like to eat, tack it on. Like, so I, in that period of transition for me, I sort of did the vegetarian thing, but it just wasn't what my body needed. And I need a little bit of red meat, and I do great. But I'm pretty much, like the vegetarian who eats gobs and gobs of like veggies, and then I add on my stuff. So that's really helpful.
I found the same in my path. I became a vegetarian for 15 years, and it almost killed me, actually. It just wasn't for my type over time, and I was an athlete at the time, and it was just too much. And so I found I needed chicken, fish, not much red meat. Now I've actually added in more red meat than ever in my entire life, and I feel better. But
Right. But you're listening to your body.
what?
You're listening to your body.
Well, and that's the truth, is that I listen daily because the body changes every day. And I have clearly discovered that if I eat the same way every day, that is not what my body needs. And there may be a week where I only want plants, I only want fresh. And then all of a sudden it's like time for that chicken again. Or, some days I just need more protein. And your body clearly will talk to you. I have found it's obvious if you really listen.
It's so true. And with that listening part too is one of a lot of people who have insomnia,
Yeah.
I tell them a couple of quick tips. And a lot of people know about the blue blocker lenses at night, so that some of the lights that you and I are being exposed to right now aren't getting you and messing up your melatonin. I tell people, turn off your Wi-Fi at night. It makes a huge difference in your sleep, and it's less irritating. And yes, I know you can still pick up your neighbors, but it's all about proximity. And so when you just give your body a little bit of space, it helps. But the other trick is, if you can't sleep, get up in the morning and get bright sunlight. So actually get up on time, even if it sucks, go outside and get some sunshine and some fresh air. And when we look back at the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, osteopathic physicians had about a 10-fold decrease in morbidity and mortality of their patients compared to other doctors, because we told people if they could go outside and get a little bit of fresh air and sunlight every day. And if you couldn't, we wanted people to open the windows for a few minutes a couple times a day and get that fresh air. And then we taught people, when the patient was lying flat, we could shake their feet and mechanically move the fluids. They call it a pedal pump or lymphatic pump. And doctors would teach the family to do this. So it would mimic the natural movement of the body.
That's fascinating.
To clear the lymphatics.
That is fascinating. Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's been on my mind is, are there any myths that you're aware of that are being perpetuated on the media right now that people need to know about? Because, like, for example, yesterday, someone's telling me the story about how they're saying now it was started in the US. And I mean, you're getting all these stories now. Right. Would you talk about that and debunk some of these myths?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I have seen is that most of the general medical practitioners, meaning infectious disease, family medicine, ER docs, internists, pediatricians, this is the one time in my career where I've seen them almost all unite with a common message, but then you get the outside pieces. So, I think that it looks like it's, at least the big jump was in Wuhan, China. And I also, you hear about like event 201, where Johns Hopkins and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, some other folks got together to do a tabletop discussion of what would happen in a novel coronavirus outbreak. And 5-6 weeks later, we have one.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of conspiracy around that. People, they have been very clear to say that that's not the case. I'm not on the inside, but what I know is that it is behaving like a coronavirus. It's behaving like a virus that can spread. It makes sense how it's spreading. Yeah. And I almost don't care at the moment. Maybe once we get this under control, we can worry. Yeah. But when we buy into some of these myths, it's really kind of unfortunate, because it takes us away from the calm and the healing, and it gets us in a stress state. Yes. One of the other things people have been talking about is, like, the WHO is asking Facebook and Google and stuff and other groups to censor certain people who are claiming to have these treatments. And one of the big ones is like the use of IV vitamin C. Now, people have used it clinically for a very, very long time successfully, both in certain types of cancer treatments as well as in viral treatments and other infections. But there is really no clear evidence in the novel coronavirus. But there's no clear evidence for anything.
So right? So, this man, explain what you mean by that, please.
Well, because I mean, it's new. We don't know. So some of the medicines that I referred to earlier, we thought about using them in this because they had used them in SARS and MERS. Yeah. The previous big coronaviruses that caused, larger scares. But all of the research we've done has only been in the last couple months, really. But there are people out there saying, I have an herbal protocol that definitively treats the coronavirus. Nobody has a definitive anything at the moment. What we do know is that there are a lot of herbs that have antiviral properties. We know herbs, just like our medicines, were used in SIRS and MERS and other viral outbreaks, and they can be helpful. We just have no clinical evidence that almost anything works for this. So I think we just need to understand that herbs can work, medications can work, and we need to work with our practitioner to figure out what's best for us.
Yeah. I want to check the chat for a minute here and just see if there's some questions coming in. Let's see. Can I even see these questions?
What did you do to get the heavy metals out?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good question.
Where do you see? Oh, see, I'm not able to see what you're seeing. So
I just pulled it up on my phone just because of that little tech thing we had before. But
why don't you? I have a couple here that people actually sent in earlier today.
cool.
Let's look at that. But then
We'll get to that heavy metals.
no, go ahead and talk about that. Because
Well,
heavy metals is serious. I had very severe heavy metal poisoning myself years ago, and it is not fun to have it and to get it out.
Well, yeah, and I think that it's very much like a lot of things where we have environmental exposure, whether that environment's in your mouth like mine was, or if it's an environment like out in your external environment. But with the heavy metals, when I first found out, I basically had my mercury amalgams removed because I didn't like the taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And then when I was getting better from Lyme and babesiosis, which was what was causing a lot of those problems, I still couldn't get my brain back. And so I got some testing done. I had elevated heavy metal burden, so not acute toxicity, but sort of wearing a heavy metal backpack.
Yeah.
That was really weighing me down. And so then it was a combination of yoga and all the movement, a diet. I actually did go from sleeping from 4 to 6 hours a day to sleeping 8 or 9 hours a day for a really long time, because I learned the value of that. And all of those started to help. And then I did specific oral chelation protocols with DMSA and a whole bunch of natural supports that were designed specifically for chronically ill people, not acutely ill people. And it took about 2.5 months in, I felt like my brain was 50% back, and about 10.5 months into it, I was pretty much free and clear. So it was, but it was a bit of a journey.
It's quite a journey. It took me 1.5 years, actually.
Wow.
I started with DMPS IV. Are you ready for this? Every week for a year until it almost killed me. And then, this was years ago when they weren't doing it the same as they do now. And I switched to a new doctor, and he did the DMSA oral. And then I even switched to a homeopathic spray, which was the most effective of all. And I did all the glutathione and natural supplements that you know about to boost my minerals. But wow, you talk about a journey. That was a dark chapter in my life.
Isn't it crazy?
Oof.
Well, it was crazy too, because for me, like, I had Lyme disease and babesiosis for 8 years, and then I treated them for 4, and I was feeling everything went away except that brain thing. And I was like, it can't be the same thing. And it didn't feel the same. And so I didn't even learn how to do DMPS until about a year into finishing up the metals. So I just did a little bit of it at the tail end to just make sure I was kind of clean. And I noticed a little change, but I didn't have that wonderful response a lot of people have early on, where you get hammered. Like, whoa.
No, you really do get hammered, and it's so aggressive. And so it was just too much for my little body. So, all right. So then let me also pull up, there was a great question that came in earlier that came from Hannah Graham. Thank you, Hannah. She's probably in the middle of the night where she lives, but she said, my question is, when you've caught a virus that is affecting your overall health and it stays for weeks or months on end, and she said, I'm talking about a cold, a flu, or the coronavirus here, any kind, what can we do to support the immune system? And she just wants to leave that open and just hear your comments on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we were talking, I think all the basics are covered with chilling out and eating well and getting some fresh air and sleeping. Certainly vitamin D, every time you mention it, there's always somebody who's going to argue with you, but
Right.
across the board, most of us, like the vitamin D can be very helpful to keep it in a high normal range. Um, other things, I use a lot of transfer factor multi-immune from Research Nutritionals personally. I recently had to travel, so I doubled down on it. I like mitochondrial support, generally because it does a little more for me personally than adrenal support. And
So talk real people talk here. What is mitochondrial support? Explain that.
yeah, so the mitochondria are the energy factories of the body, and so we have this, and you can dive into all the biochemistry of how they work and whether there's a genetic issue or this or that. But the bottom line being is there's some supplements out there that fall into the general category of mitochondrial support. Things people know of commonly are things even like CoQ10 is in a lot of them, NAD, but and every formula is a little different. But the idea is we give the body the energy factories, the building block nutrients that it needs to help support healing,
Yeah.
and support their function. And what I found when I first sort of went from more of an adrenal support kind of thing for my energy because of all the work, because we're all working hard and we need to do something. And I moved over to the mitochondrial style of support. I actually started to feel like I was detoxing a little bit of heavy metals again.
Wow,
And
interesting.
I actually had to put a little bit of a metal binder in, just a small dose for a little bit,
Yeah.
and it cleared completely up. And what I've seen in a lot of other patients is it seems to really flush things out at a cellular level, but it
Mhm.
also gives you the energy for
Yeah.
your body to decide what to do with those nutrients and how to use all the energy that the mitochondria are creating.
And I
You know,
want to emphasize what Tom just said. It gives your body the ability to decide, to discern what it wants to use. See, there's wisdom, innate wisdom in your body. And the beautiful thing is that if you learn to listen instead of panic, if you go within instead of without, those of you that know me well, I'm always talking about we have an inner technology. And we're always looking externally, and thank you technology for, I'm glad we're here with technology, or we wouldn't be able to be here today. But without, well, I just noticed my technology is getting low because it was not turned on, the plug. But we have inner technology, a GPS literally, that talks to us all the time if we get quiet enough to hear. And this is science.
well, it's interesting, and this comes up for me every once in a while, and I should really memorize the quote, but I tend not to be a quote person. I just remember the gist. But Dr. Andrew Taylor Still, who was a frontier physician, MD, back in the mid 1800s, said, "Hey, we're giving people arsenic, strychnine, we're doing bloodletting, and that stuff is actually making it worse, not better. And there's this manipulation thing you can do that helps unburden the body so it can heal better. So we should do that." And so everybody laughed at him. And so he decided to create the science of osteopathy. And in the early 1890s, he's had his first class. There were women, there were blacks, there were other minorities, and it was like everybody was equal.
Wow.
And so one of his quotes has to do with how all of the drugs that are necessary, are contained, or all of God's drugs are contained in the in the pharmacy of the body, or some crazy thing like that. But basically, he's like, we can create. It's interesting. You ever think about this, Deborah? When we have opiate receptors, and
Right.
people take heroin and morphine, but do you know why? They work because we already have a receptor, because we make our own.
So look, this is what I in my pain-free living program every single week, that our body is producing chemicals constantly, and it has to do with our thinking mind and our emotional reactions. And so people get addicted even to fear and anger because the feeling makes you feel alive, and you just start pumping that adrenaline.
Adrenaline, yeah.
And before you know it, like if you don't have that going, you feel like flat. And nobody likes to feel flat. So, people get hooked on the worry cycle,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the breathing affects it. And the breathing is a big component of this. So I always say, and the thinking mind and the emotions come first. Everything that's in the physical body shows up later. The
Mm-hmm.
subtle energy leads to the physical manifestation. We're not separate. We're constantly thinking. We know the science shows we're thinking 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. My God, right now, I bet you everyone's 90,000 thoughts are pretty negative. And
Right.
that creates the emotional reaction. The emotions release that constant chemical reaction.
One of the crazy things about this whole COVID-19 thing is what I noticed early on was most of what we were asking, the best way to protect ourselves from getting the virus was for other people who had it to do the right thing. Because me wearing a mask isn't going to help me. But if someone else is coughing and they have it, they put the mask on, they protect me.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is when you do the personal practice at home, where you're doing the immune boosting supplements, the sleep, the food, all those good things, that's going to help you. But all of this social distancing and all these other things are where we're actually doing, that does more to help other people than ourselves. And so in this crazy thing called coronavirus pandemic, we actually are seeing the globe come together and take a step back from each other in order to protect the other person more than ourselves. So it's almost bringing us together. When have we last seen so many people do something for someone else?
Right. It's really a backwards way of reminding us we're all one, we're all interconnected, and we better start to think about more than just ourselves. How cool is that? Wow.
And it's like, I don't think most people understand that they're actually helping other people more than they're helping themselves.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's kind of, we're coming together in a really weird way. And I think it's going to create a lot of conversations that we weren't having, like why is it even possible that this could happen to this degree? I mean, it's not just, that was not an overnight phenomenon. Right. Maybe the coronavirus leaving an animal going to a person and then person to person spread was, but the setting where our governments are not, taking action quickly, and it's like we're leaving it to Nike and Lululemon and Apple to lead the way.
Oh my God.
I mean, and doctors ER doctors are begging for supplies and asking people to make the right decisions. And it seems like and so it's nice to see that other people are stepping up and really saying, this is what we need, let's come together. And I'm hoping that sense is going to envelop the globe a little bit more.
So speaking of stepping up, what I want to share with everybody that came tonight, and thank you all so much. And we're recording this, and we can send it out. So if anybody wants a recording of it and wants to share it, just email contact@internationalcpi.com, and we'll post. Laurie is in, I think she's here, and she can post that in the back in the chat. And then I've got links from Dr. Tom I'm going to give you in just a moment, and he's got some magnificent things for you. Let me see what I've got. I'm going to share with you his coronavirus resource page on his website, which actually, let me give you that now. It's www.origins, let me spell it, ORIGINS of health, HEALTH. So originsofhealth.com/coronavirus. And that's Dr. Tom Moorcroft's resource page. I'm going to give you a link to his free download also, which is a coronavirus cheat sheet. It helps you be proactive, not panicked, with top 3 tips to avoid getting the coronavirus and the top 5 tips for boosting immune function at home, so you and your family can stay safe and healthy. And I want to talk a minute, don't let me forget, Tom, about children. We need to talk about that. And he's also going to give you his ebook, Relax and Reboot. And I am going to give you some other tools as well in just a moment here. What I want to do is actually share with you and take you through and guide you through right now in real time a breathing technique that will stimulate the calm, that will it will activate the calm, and it will stimulate what we know is the vagus nerve, and that response is known as the relaxation response, so that your body can start to heal itself. And I'm also going to layer on, those of you that know me, the high-speed healing method while we do the vagus nerve breathing. And my God, this is the power pack, all right? This is the power pack to help you boost your energy, release symptoms of pain and fatigue and trauma and exhaustion and worry and overwhelm. And it helps people on so many levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. So why don't we, you want to do that now? Should we do that now, Tom? And then come back to a few more questions and talk about kids?
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever
Okay.
works best.
All right. So everybody who's watching, first of all, if you're in a car, no, do not turn me off. No, if you're in a car driving or you're operating equipment or machinery, just come back. We'll send you the recording. Do not, it's not safe. You must be in a safe space, sitting down, and take everything off your lap and close your beautiful eyes. You can do it with eyes open, actually, it doesn't matter. But it's easier to focus inward, which is what both Dr. Tom and I are trying to explain, is that going inward is the key. So if you close your eyes, please, I want you to just take a normal breath and notice the feeling of the air coming in through your nostrils and out. And I'm going to begin to count for you, and I want you to breathe with me as I count. And we're going to inhale to the count of 4. We're going to hold the breath for the count of 2, and we're going to exhale to the count of 6. So follow along with me. No strain, no struggle. Just make it as easy and effortless as possible. I want you to put your right hand on your low belly and do your best to inhale through your low belly first, and then bring the breath up into your chest as we inhale. So here we go. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Inhale 2, 3, 4, and hold 2. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 2. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Take a regular breath, a normal breath in now, and a big sigh out of your mouth. And just keep your eyes closed as you take another breath in, a regular, normal breath. And a big sigh as you exhale. Exaggerate your exhale. And I'm going to work on you silently for just another moment or two bringing in the healing frequencies, communicating through your biofield from me to you, because we are interconnected through the field. No matter how far away you are, no matter what is going on with you, you and I, we are connected right now. Allow your body to move in any way if it starts to move on its own, or if you feel like moving. Just let that movement happen naturally. Begin to notice anything that's coming up inside yourself, in your inner world. This is an opportunity to practice inner listening. Don't make anything happen. Don't try to make something happen. Notice what is happening. Notice how you feel. Notice anything you may or may not start to see, even with your eyes closed. Notice the sounds inside and around you. Notice the sensations. Even if pain comes up, just notice it without doing anything to try and change it. It's the energy of the pattern coming up and moving out. Notice any thoughts that come up and just let them come up. Even if they're troublesome thoughts, they're actually moving. The same with emotions. Notice any feelings that come up. Let those feelings come up. It's important that they come up. Your feelings are energy in motion. Let them move. They know how to move on their own. Just allow them the opportunity to come up. This is the perfect time. Allow that fear to come up. Any worry, anything that's been troubling you, allow it to come up now. It is releasing. Notice, observe, allow, feel, see, hear, sense. Your body and mind and emotions are all interconnected. You are an amazing ocean of information and energy and light and vibration. And everything is changeable. All energy is changeable. Your body is a mass of vibrating energy and light and vibrational information, and it is all changeable. Allow yourself in this moment to recognize you're safe. Feel. Remember. Be right here, right now. You are safe. You are loved. You are surrounded by love and light. And you are connected to everyone and everything. You are never alone. Take another beautiful breath in through your nose and let out a big exhale sigh out of your mouth. And as you inhale again, this time when you sigh, I'd like you to hum your exhale and feel your vibration. Get soothing, become more soothed and calmed as you hum your exhale. Hear the sound, your own signature sound as you exhale. Take another breath in and hum your exhale and hear your own amazing, unique signature sound, the vibration of you, and soothe your nervous system with your own sound. Now begin to become aware of all the sounds around you. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Deepen your breathing. And slowly become aware that you're coming back into the here and now, into the room. Become aware of the sounds in the room around you. And come all the way back now. Take a deep breath in, stretch your arms overhead and breathe in. Take life in. Life is still good. And then exhale, just shake it out. If you get scared, shaking is a really great way to shake out that fear vibration and get yourself back grounded and calm. There's so much more that I'm going to share with you over the week and perhaps weeks to come. I want to ask Tom, will you check and see, are there any more questions that I can't see from where I am that maybe you can see?
Look here.
And see if anybody has a question. Now is a great time to post it in the Facebook group. And hi, Vicki Smith and Kaylee and Christina, Linda. Oh my God, Anna, long time no see, Anna. Sonia, all the way from Germany, and Shiroko's here. Hi, love. Cynthia, look at all these people. Cynthia Thurlow, Robin Benson, sister. Hi, love.
Hey.
Oh my God, so many great people, friends. Sandra Frickin is here. Sharon Melnick, my sister, love you. Sue Paisley is here. Oh my goodness, so many people.
So much love.
So much love. I'm telling you, everyone, the love is here. And this times like this, we need to lean into that love and remember, use your phones. When you're isolated, use your phones and use a real phone and call your friends. It's not good to get too isolated. That also perpetuates tanking your immune system. So you want to lean in and talk to people. Don't just text and type. This is where social media is also important, but don't get too hooked and let it hype you up. Hey, Tony Ewan, my favorite, America's holistic plastic surgeon is with us. There's some amazing beings. TK, oh my God. TK understands energy better than most that I know. Shirley, Stephanie, Terry, Gina, so many people. Oh my God, if I haven't called you out, know that I love you and we both appreciate you being here. We want to know any other questions. There's a question from Carrie Katz. What do you recommend or someone who has to take an elevator in and out to walk the dog? So I can't fully social distance. Tom, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great and difficult, question. The thing is, you do the best you can. I mean, you want to make sure that, if it's in this case, it's probably mostly the obvious stuff. If someone's coughing, take the next elevator. A lot, it is primarily respiratory droplets. So think about if you cough or you sneeze, then the fluid, that comes out that you might, if you accidentally cough into your hand, that, and you get kind of the fluid there, that's what's going to spread it, as well as on surfaces. So one of the things you could do if the coronavirus is higher in your area, you could use like a paper towel or even a glove to touch everything on the way out and then take it off when you get outside and then use a different one on the way back in if you have to really be crazy about it. The biggest thing is wash your hands before you go out. Say hi and wave. Don't be shaking hands or, kissing people that you don't really know. And then, go downstairs, get outside, get that fresh air, and then come back in. I've seen a lot of people with the hand sanitizer. This might be a time, depending upon your area and how clean or dirty it is. I would certainly also talk to, I'm assuming in this situation, we're in a more of an apartment or a townhouse or a complex type of situation, maybe like New York City is what I'm thinking, something like that. If that's the case, I would also touch base with the management via the phone and say, hey, what precautions are you taking to keep the elevators clean? See if they have a safety protocol, because maybe they are actually cleaning it much more frequently, which would put you at lower risk. And if they're not, it's something very simple that could be done. So that way, not only could you help yourself, but others as well.
Thank you, Tom. There's a couple other questions here. And Sharon is asking, when am I offering a healing program? So First of all, today I'm going to share some free gifts along with Tom. We're going to post those links. I'm going to email tomorrow all of these links again. So if you're not on my email list, be sure to either private message us here on Facebook or email the website contact@internationalcpi.com. And I'm going to send you Tom's and my information. And then we are having a day of healing coming up on Friday, the 27th of March. And I'm going to send you all that info if you send us your email address. And Tom, do you have anything special coming up that I don't know about?
No, just lots of trying to support everybody in whatever way they need, getting good information out. It's just kind of changing by the moment, but there's going to be a few new things coming out, a little mini informational summit, and just everything we can do to kind of spread, like you're doing, spreading the calm, keeping people not panicked, giving them that information. I also saw that Dolores posted a question here too, if we have time, is how can you tell if we're being exposed if they're not testing folks until they have symptoms?
Exactly, I saw that. What is the answer to that? That's like a big mystery, right?
Right. Well, part of it is like the influenza virus. We can actually, like we were saying, you can actually be sick before you even feel sick. Like you could be infectious, meaning get someone else sick before you feel ill. So it is kind of hard. And this is where, one of the things that we're learning coming from the folks on the front lines, particularly in the West Coast, and this isn't talked about all that much, there is what they call in some patients a prodromal state, meaning the kind of mild symptoms that are out of whack for you before you get the classic symptoms and you really get sick. So they've seen up to 5 days of just feeling off. We call it malaise, low grade fever, maybe some muscle aches. And then between 5 and 7 days, people are starting to get sick, and feeling more significant symptoms. So if you start to get this like flu-like illness, that's a time to maybe back away from some other people a little more and call your doctor.
So, and I want to just bring something up, because what happens, and I run into this with so many of my clients and groups, when people are isolated or they're depressed and they're alone a lot, you can confuse malaise as a symptom of coronavirus with the fact that you're not moving your body, you're not outside getting that fresh air and sunlight you were talking about, you're not connecting with people. So it's very easy in a time like this to start to question how you feel. If you're not working, a lot of people are being told to stay home from work, just sit. And they're sitting and watching the news or the social media all day. My God, like this is a setup for feeling apathetic and low energy. So again, the breathing technique is critical. Walking, if you're able to go outside and get your bare feet on the earth, the earth emits a frequency that you need that will reboot your nervous system and your immune system. So getting barefoot on the earth, breathing that fresh air, Tom talked about this earlier in the call, getting sunlight, eating well, and sleeping. Sleep is amazing, I think. Love my sleep. And I always feel so much better after a good 8 hours of sleep, even 9 sometimes. It's just remarkable what sleep will do.
It is so amazing too, because one of the things that I think is important is we should be doing the breathing and all the things you just mentioned and calming, balancing the vagus nerve before we're sick.
Right.
And in that stage of we're feeling kind of like we're sick, it might be coming on. This is where we continue to do that, or we up that, and we just touch base if we feel worse. And Dolores had actually mentioned something about all the vagus nerve information. The whole Relax and Reboot ebook is just 3 quick ways, very similar to what you shared with us, to loosen up some of the tension on the vagus, whether it's physical, emotional. So I think that between all the resources, it's really going to help. And so I'm always saying people, it's like kind of like yes and. I'm going to be doing all the natural things to help myself out, and I'm going to do everything to help my neighbor out. And if I do happen to feel like really starting to feel sick, I'm also going to call my doctor, but I'm going to continue to do these other practices because they work in conjunction.
The breathing, some sort of breathing technique, and I teach a bunch of them, but one of them at least should be a daily lifestyle practice. It should be the first thing we do in the morning, and then to release the stress from the day before you sleep, so you sleep better. So if nothing else, this is a great time to start to integrate a breath work technique into your daily routine so that it becomes like brushing your teeth. I'm going to pull up Tom's link, and while I'm doing that, Ilona has asked, what about pregnant women? Should breathing techniques be used for pregnant women? Tom, you want to take that one?
Well, I think the breathing techniques certainly should be used. I mean, you think about Lamaze and breathing around childbirth, start practicing so definitely I'm full in on that. And the quick update of coronavirus is it does appear that if you're pregnant, your baby will be safe to not get it directly in from you. Right. And there have only been a few cases of very young children becoming sick. Wow. They were exposed after they were born to very, very sick adults, which they shouldn't have been. So wow. We really, pregnancy, at least what we know at the moment, we should be treating pregnant women the same as we would non-pregnant women for this, which is very reassuring. And you had mentioned earlier about kids. Yeah. I think it's important to mention, right now, all the numbers show that most children are much less affected by coronavirus than they are of influenza. So if your child looks like they have a COVID-19 type of thing, it is more likely to be influenza. In either case, they should be checked, give a call to the doctor. But, in below the 20s, up to 20, kids are actually get sick, which feels good. I have a girl daughter, so I know that she's at statistically less risk than myself or Jill are. Yeah. And certainly, I think that breathing across the board is a natural thing. It's a free thing. And the other part about the belly breathing that you were having us incorporate in that is when we look at how we detoxify the body naturally, the lymphatic system, we always talk about movement because we want the arms and legs, the lymphatics to go. Yeah. But in the chest and the belly, pressure gradient changes by deep breathing as the primary mover of the lymphatic system. So this is one of the ways you can detoxify yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically. So
that's so great. So the person that asked about heavy metal, see, if you every day are detoxing a little at a time, you're not going to build up everything so heavily and so quickly, and just lighten the load. So yeah. Great information there. All right, let me make sure. First of all, Tom, what town do you live in? What town?
Right outside of Hartford, Connecticut.
Hartford, Connecticut. That's right. So anyone in the East Coast, go see Dr. Tom in person. He should be your doctor. He's the best there is. So Dr. Tom's website is dr_. Do you want me to give that out?
The best one, so they actually get a response, is info@originshealth.com, or if you just go to originsofhealth.com, there's a contact spot. I'll go right to my team, people who can email me directly, but if they do, I might miss it, like I do a lot.
Send that dawn on me. Give it out again. I forgot to write that one down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's just info@originsofhealth.com.
And again, here is Dr. Tom Moorcroft's coronavirus resource page. We'll post this. Laurie, post this in the comments, and then we're going to email it to you as well. But write it down, everybody. It's www.originsofhealth.com/coronavirus. Origins, ORIGINS, of health, HEALT.com/coronavirus. And this is another powerful tool for you guys. Wow, Tom, this is so great. It's a free download, and Dr. Tom Moorcroft is giving you a coronavirus cheat sheet that helps you be proactive, not panicked, with 3 tips to avoid getting the coronavirus and top 5 tips for boosting your immune function at home so you and your family can stay safe and healthy. Here's the link. www.originsofhealth.com/coronavirus-cheat-sheet. I'll repeat that. www.originsofhealth.com/coronavirus hyphen cheat, CHEAT hyphen sheet. And if that isn't enough, he's also going to add his ebook, Relax and Reboot, to the download sequence. So you'll get all of this. And if you live anywhere near him or want to get to him and know how to do that, you're going to want to go see Dr. Tom Moorcroft. Those of you who have not done so yet, if you would like a copy of my ebook, it's a digital version that you can download and read instantly. It's called Why Do I Still Hurt? Rapid Relief for Chronic Pain, Depression, Anxiety, and More. You can go to my website and you will get not only the book, but an MP3 called How to Live Pain-Free, where you'll get another demo session of the healing modality called High Speed Healing. And you will also receive 3 short videos with tools for clearing your thinking mind, your emotions, and your energy field. And that's all there is, folks. A thinking mind, an emotional state, and an energy field. That's what's showing up in the body. And so if you want to integrate anything you've heard today, we have to cover all 3 territories: the mind, the emotions, the energy field, and the body. And if you only focus on one, this is why people don't heal. It's why they're stuck. It's why they end up with mystery illness, because there's one of these areas we have not addressed properly. So I am just beyond grateful to you, Dr. Tom Moorcroft. I'm honored to call you a friend, and I just love you to death. Think you're the most brilliant doc on the planet, and I'm just so grateful you took your time to be here with us today.
I feel the same way. Thank you.
Welcome. Check him out, everybody. Like, don't leave town without clicking the links. And, you're not leaving town.
I know how amazing you are. So.
All right. Let's see. Is there anything else on the Facebook page that you can see that where am I here? Facebook page. Carlene Scott, love to you. Thanks, Laurie, for posting all these links. You're welcome, Ilona. I'm glad you're feeling high and joyful. That's what we wanted. Carol, great to see you. Look at all the love and the smiley faces showing up here. How cool is that? Keep it coming and spread it, everyone. Spread the joy. This is a time to spread the love, spread the calm, and just stay grounded. Don't panic. If you have a squirrely moment, reach out, call a friend, check in to our Facebook group any time of day or night. Someone will be there. Someone will hear you and you can connect. So that's about all from me today. Thank you all so much. Sending you all so much love, so much gratitude. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening. Let's see.